Hey, what's up? It's Doug Cunnington here. We're going to talk about 3 passive income sources that I've experimented with myself. Actually, I realized 2 of them are failures, not just one. Basically, I've worked through several different passive income ideas. A lot of people will just talk about the ideas and they haven't tried them. They can't speak from firsthand experience. And if they are talking about it, sometimes they will talk about their failures and then tell you how to do it. They haven't successfully implemented something. That's not the best advice. First off, I'll tell you about the biggest failure. This is a real estate investment. And basically, I graduated from college in 2003. I got a job. I lived in a couple apartments, rental stuff. I was working at a management consulting firm, traveled a lot, blah, blah, blah. A lot of my friends were settling down, buying homes at that time. They were getting married and they were basically settling down. I was like, hey, I should buy a house. I've been saving up some money. I have a good job and it looks stable. I should buy a house. So I'm sure everyone remembers in 2005 to 2006, the real estate market was, depending on where you were located, you were sort of still growing. The values were quite high. And that is around the time that I bought my house. So I bought my place in December of 2005. So about a year and a half after I got my job, which I think is probably typical for someone in that position. I had a job for a little while. I was able to save some. People were settling down. It's like the normal narrative to buy a house if you could afford it at that time. It didn't even matter if you could afford it or not. In fact, I think I got approved for something like 6 times my annual income. I had some rolling credit card debt of maybe a couple thousand. I would pay it off. And basically, the reason why I invested in real estate, and you'll see how this escalated, my parents bought their first home when, I was 2 or something like that. And I was 1 or 2. They moved out after 5 or 6 years. They turned it into a rental home and it worked out great for them. In fact, they did that twice. And it worked out great. So they had a rental property. In fact, my parents still owned the first home that they purchased and they still rent it out. Of course, it's a huge difference. It was 25 years later and the market was totally different. Basically, I bought a place that seemed fine. It was a good location. It was sort of an area that was turning. And by the way, this was in Atlanta. So it was one of the areas it was hit sort of hard. I know different, California, Florida, probably a little bit worse, but Atlanta, it was hit pretty well in 2008. I'll fast forward and say my plan was to buy the house, live there for a few years, fix it up a bit, move out, probably, get married and that sort of again, that sort of narrative. The problem was the mortgage was too expensive for the home. And again, we all know that the home prices crashed in about 2008 and I was upside down on my mortgage by quite a bit. So I bought the place, and I could just throw out real numbers here because it doesn't really matter. I bought the place for $185, and for a year, the value in the appraisal was in the low 200s. So it worked out at first, but by the time I got married and moved out of there, the value of the home was probably 140 or so. And by the time I was ready to rent it out, again, it was a rental property. Or I intended it to be a rental property. So by the time I moved out, I wasn't able to cover the mortgage, of which I had 2. I financed 99% of it or something like that. I wasn't able to cover the mortgage with the amount that I could charge for rent, even though I kept it occupied the whole time. I went on for 2 to 3 years trying to make it work. And, this is classic sunk cost fallacy type situation. And of course, with a mortgage, you have to think about the different options that you may have. Whole different story for some other day, which I can get into more. But I could tell you eventually it didn't work out. It was a failing proposition and I don't have the home anymore. Yeah, it was just a bad deal. So, I did limp along. I could afford to pay the $200 to $300 per month that I wasn't covering from the rent. So I could cover that. And it was basically like throwing away $200 to $300 a month. And by the way, if you get a rental home or any kind of investment property, the part that people sort of neglect to tell you is there's going to be maintenance cost, right? It's hard to estimate that, but there's definitely going to be maintenance cost. I had the AC go out. I had a leaky roof at some point that I had to, take care of. There were a few other things, but again, normal maintenance, painting, leaky faucet. There are a number of things that come up, and just about everything costs, $100 or more. Something big like an AC issue, like when the air conditioner goes out in Atlanta, you have to kind of take care of it. And that's multiple thousands of dollars. So that's a thing that you got to consider. So the investment property stuff didn't work out for me. A lot of it was, inexperience. I was young. Buying a house to live in to turn into a rental property, those don't always match up. So obviously a rental property can be very profitable. It can be a great investment. You can fix it up, rent it out, and then sell it some years later. And, it just works out great. But you have to have like the right inputs. You have to buy, the right property. You have to buy the right stuff for it to work out. If I could have put, say, 40% down on the house and had a much smaller mortgage, well, that changes the whole equation right there. I mean, that's completely different than, any other scenario, because at that point, the payments each month would have been, a fraction, probably half to 75% of what I was paying. And then the math kind of works out. And by the way, you probably need to make more each month than your mortgage, like as a baseline, because of the maintenance costs that you're going to have to deal with. Just remember that. Okay, moving on to number 2. So my investment property stuff was a total failure. I tried to turn my primary home into a rental property in the worst time in the last however many 100 years to buy a home. So that just didn't work out for me. Number 2, again, this is a failure. This is around digital marketing, info products, affiliate sales, and that sort of thing. Now, it's a specific model that I'm going to talk about. And in fact, I drew a picture that I'm going to show you in a second. So around the time I was getting started with online marketing, digital marketing in general, I came across digitalmarketer.com. So great group of people, very smart. They basically lay out their plans for what they did in different markets to, market in a digital way. When you see the concepts, it's pretty straightforward. And I recommend you check it out. It's a great thing to understand. It's all built around email marketing, and they lay it out a little more eloquently, but this is the main idea. Again, this is another failure point. So the main idea with digital marketer and their sort of, I guess, the plan that they lay out, it's not necessarily like original. It's been used multiple times in different industries, but essentially you get cold traffic through ads. So you could do, any kind of ads. It doesn't matter. A lot of times people work with, Facebook or, Instagram, stuff like that. And then you get them on the email list. So you have to use some sort of a lead magnet or some sort of content upgrade, something free to entice them. Digital marketer, in fact, uses like real physical products. So if you check out one of their sites called Survival Life, they use, multiple small little items. They're from China. I got 1 or 2 just to see what it was like. They're very cheap. They're low quality, but they just have you pay for shipping. It costs like $4 and you get like a pocket knife or something. So you get on the email list through these ads. So they'll show you an ad. You sign up for the email list. You get something good. And then they have a tripwire. And the tripwire is another like, it's a low cost item, under $20 usually. And a lot of times it could be like $7 to $20. So it's in that range. A little bit of an investment. The idea is once you pay money to someone, like you're more likely to purchase from them again, even if it's a very small item. So they called it a tripwire. The core offer is where you have, and I'm going along the blue lines here. The core offer is something more expensive. Usually it's between $47 and $500, depending on what you're selling, the value of it in the market. And the core offer is where a lot of the money is made. Then after the core offer, and these are immediate. So you sign up for the email list and then they're like, hey, do you want to, get this, ebook for $4? You could buy it here. If you go for that, they'll say, hey, do you want the core offer too? That's $100. And then after that, they'll try and sell you something else, like maybe a higher end option here or something that complements it. So if it's if the tripwire is like an ebook, maybe they try and sell you some physical books here at the core offer, like a set of I'm going to make this really dated, like a set of encyclopedias, for example. It's a bad example, but we'll just say encyclopedias. And then the upsells, maybe they sell you like video versions of material in the encyclopedias. So all of a sudden, you have the potential for someone to come in on an ad, sign up for the email list, and a very small percentage will actually go ahead and buy everything on day one. The hope is that those people, that's very small percentage that purchases, will pay for the ads 100%. And then over time in the email list, you'll be able to build rapport with the other people that didn't buy on day one and then sell additional things. It's a great model. It obviously works really well. The digital marketer crew, they actually use this model for the digital marketer course, of which I paid, $40, $50 a month for like 18 months learning the material. So concept is easy, right? I think people get it. Putting it in practice, it's harder, right? I mean, if it's your first time around, like it was for me, there's a lot of issues. Like most of the time you don't hit your projections. So I would put in some estimates for what I thought could happen as far as conversions, and it never worked out. It was never even close. So I was using sort of like benchmark estimates, and it was way off. And the problem is you have to pay for the ads up front. And if you don't have a budget and you don't have sort of the experience to understand what it takes, what to tweak, it's really difficult to make it work. So it can obviously work, and I'm pretty sure the areas that I was trying to use this model, they could have worked really well, but it would take time, tweaking the ads. I'm not an expert in paid traffic, so it would take some time to make that work. And then after that, you have to develop the products, you have to deal with the customer service. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle here that they leave out, which is totally okay. I mean, to get someone started, you have to give them something approachable. So I actually learned a ton about, ads in general and Facebook ads specifically, and then email marketing as well. So that model didn't work for me exactly, but it was a great learning experience. I tried it in two different areas, one in, a digital marketing area. So if you've been following me for like 3 or more years, you probably remember I had some, products that were under $10, and I had some stuff that was a little more expensive. And then I had like a bigger video course. All of that is retired. You can't get it anymore. It's all out of date. I tried that model and it just didn't work out. It was a big failure, but from the passive income standpoint, once you hone that down, once you refine your offer, the ads and so on, it would just be a matter of finding new audiences to target, and then potentially developing like multiple core offers and different upsells. And once you have a set of customers, you can sell them different material. If you have loyal customers, they will buy more stuff from you. I know personally, I've purchased a couple big courses. I bought multiple from Digital Marketer. One was their ongoing Digital Marketer Lab. I was a member there for a long time. And then I purchased what they called Funnel Blueprint, which was sort of a playbook for designing a funnel and just more in-depth material on the topic that I just showed you here. Next, I'll tell you about one that worked for me. So this is the third, as you probably imagine, this is Amazon affiliate sites. And there's a lot of different sort of niche site models. You could build a site on AdSense. You could sell other affiliate products outside of Amazon. I did really well on the Amazon platform. I understand the content that needs to be, created, and I understand how to get traffic and then how to convert the traffic over to Amazon. It's worked well for me, and that's the one where, you know, I've stuck with it. And the point that I want to make here, and I could go in deeper with Amazon affiliate stuff, but I think a lot of people are quite familiar, but I could describe it really quick. Essentially, you could have a website that, or, you know, any sort of platform. You could have a website, you could have an email list, you can have a YouTube channel, you could have social media presence, and you can refer people over to Amazon to specific products or just to Amazon in general. If they make a purchase using your affiliate link, then you get a small commission between 1 and 10%. It sounds like a small percentage, but you probably know that a lot of people buy stuff on Amazon, like millions and millions of people buy stuff on Amazon all the time. My greatest success is selling a site for $235,000 just a couple months ago. And it was just a simple Amazon affiliate site, a few hundred pages. It was like 2.5 years old when I sold it. And it works out well. The main point that I want to make here is there are many ways to, you know, create passive income. Most of the time, you have to have something up front. You either have to put in time or capital. So you have to put in some sort of high value item up front. There's no way that you can create a passive income source immediately and start making money. With the real estate, you obviously have to have like some capital up front, or, and obviously I know you can leverage, you know, other value and get a mortgage. You can get loans and all that stuff, but you do almost 100% of the time have to have some kind of collateral for that, whether it's a, you know, a job so that they know that you could pay the mortgage back. You have to have some kind of capital up front to make the real estate work. For the digital marketer model here, where you're running ads and selling, you know, products, whether they're your own or affiliate products or whatever, you have to have some capital up front, number one, to run the ads. And then after that, you actually need to have experience in, you know, running ads, optimizing ads, developing products, or I guess working with other affiliates, because you don't actually have to sell in these areas here. You don't actually have to sell your own products. You can sell other people's products, but of course, you're probably not getting paid as much. And once people buy other folks' products, they're probably going to sell them other stuff. So at that point, you don't necessarily have as strong of a bond with your email list. And for the Amazon affiliate site, I believe that is probably one of the lowest cost ways to get started. You probably can get started for, you know, under $200. You have to pay for hosting, probably a premium theme, and a couple odds and ends, like a keyword research tool for a couple months. But you have to put time in, right? So you can get started cheaply, but you have to put time in. And most of the time, it's going to take, you know, 4 to 6 months to make your first, or to get to your first $100 month. Can people do it in a shorter time frame? Yeah, you could do it in a shorter time frame if everything goes right. But if it's your first time around, it could take time. And I could tell you, you know, some of my peers that are doing really well, they're making tens of thousands per month. They get sites started the same way that we do. It takes them 4 to 6 months to make their first 100, whether they're using private blog networks and gray hat techniques, or if they're doing white hat outreach. It takes time no matter what. And, you know, once a site starts getting traction, then it can escalate really quickly. I did have a site last year. It was making about 100 in 2016. It was making about $100 a month in January of 2016. And by December, it made $14,819. I looked at that stat recently, so I just happen to know that that's how much it was. Then after that, there is maintenance, right? So for an Amazon affiliate site, the maintenance could be very minimal. The site that I referenced before that sold for $235,000, it really only took like an hour a week or so. Even, you know, people are familiar with the story. Even when Rob and I were working pretty hard on the site to convert it from gray hat to white hat, we actually were still only putting in like 2-3 hours a week max. I mean, it was quite minimal. So, okay, those are the 3 sources, and I'm probably going to do more passive income stuff because It's a topic I haven't touched on much. It's one level up from what I normally talk about, which is very tactical Amazon affiliate stuff. So I'll probably do a little bit of content on this passive income idea and just other related ideas. Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for hopping on today. Have a great day.